The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. I've got some great stories to talk about with you today. The first of which relates to Apple. It's pretty widely known that some of the different minerals that are used for the production of mobile phones, like iPhones, for example, are conflict minerals, and many are sourced from deeply, deeply brutal and unethical places and situations. Apple buys a key iPhone component from some brutal Congolese mines, and it's being reported that they are trying to stop. This relates to cobalt mines, where child labor has been widely reported, and Apple is reportedly reevaluating their supply plans to get cobalt for their iPhones. They've announced, number one, that they are suspending temporarily buying hand-mined cobalt in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this was, some people have emailed me saying, David, this is not something we should cheer Apple for, because the only reason they're doing this is because Sky News published an investigation where they exposed what's going on there, and it's only because of the PR blowback that Apple is doing this. I understand that, and with these companies, most of these decisions are going to be guided by a combination of the effect on the bottom line and PR, and of course, bad PR affects your bottom line. But I still think that because of the size of Apple, Pat, that for whatever reason is causing them to suspend the purchase of hand-mined cobalt from the Congo, it only is going to have a positive impact, isn't it? Particularly because other companies may be forced to follow suit also for PR reasons.
I mean, I don't think it would be a good strategy to continue condemning Apple now that they've come around on the issue, because I just feel like once someone has an evolution on a topic, you don't go back in history and point out the fact that they were against it all along. I just don't think that's a very effective way to do things. But, I mean, going forward, Apple is a very innovative company, so I wonder if they could find a solution to this where they don't even have to use cobalt, and if it's actually something necessary, they should at least take a look at the supply chain and see where they can make a change there.
I think the latter is a better thing. The way right now that many of our devices, including, mobile phones, laptops, etc., the lithium-ion batteries that run these devices require cobalt in the sort of current paradigm. So there would need to be a much broader change in order to eliminate the need for cobalt. It just so happens that a majority of cobalt comes from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is one of the poorest countries in the world. There's been reports, it's not just Apple. I mean, Sony, Samsung, all of these companies use cobalt sourced from so-called artisanal mines. These are small mines where workers are using the most basic tools, sometimes doing what is called hand mining, as I mentioned. Little to no labor regulations whatsoever. Amnesty International has been all over this. They released a report saying that the companies that are sourcing cobalt from places like DRC, they're not doing even basic checks to see whether or not child labor is being used to extract cobalt. And the Sky News investigation found children as young as 4 years old working in the mines. And of course, there's fumes. The pay is equivalent to a dime for a day's work. And this is backbreaking work, quite literally. So it's absolutely horrible. And I think this is one of those situations where it's very easy for us in the United States to rationalize the continued use of our devices because we say, hey, listen, I'm against this. I'm completely against this. However, it's so ubiquitous. Exactly. All of these devices that I use need cobalt because they use lithium-ion batteries. If I were to get rid of all of my devices in protest, I wouldn't even be able to do my job, which is how I'm maybe advocating for change or the improvement of the world. And I think that as a result of that, I'm not saying that that's a defense, Pat, that's justified or unjustified, but it's one that I think makes it easier for everybody who uses these products to sort of rationalize it.
Yeah, because I think even people who are more green-minded and understand that we need more fair labor practices, they're part of the people that are using these phones too. It's a whole group of people because, as you said, they're so ubiquitous that you could have a wide range. People who are usually more willing to investigate whether what they're using is ethically sourced or not.
Yeah.
Have you looked into the Fairphone market though?
I haven't heard about that. I mean, just from the name, I'm assuming it's a particular phone marketed as having only ethically sourced materials. Is that the general idea?
You've got it right, but I don't think it's caught on yet. At least as of now. I mean, I'm sure it's not as stylish as the competitors. I'm sure it may even cost more because it has to go through ethical sources. But I mean, it's a good business approach for sure.
The candy industry, known as Big Candy, actually has huge lobbying dollars behind it. There's a lobbying group called the National Confectioners Association, and they are doing a lot of business with the Donald Trump organization. U.S. candy makers descended on South Florida for their industry conference last week, and they were scheduled to discuss lobbying strategy in none other than the Ivanka Trump Ballroom. A dessert networking event was then planned for the Donald Trump Grand Patio. And between meetings, attendees were eligible to enjoy outings on a Trump owned golf course and massages at a Trump spa. And there's a lot of lobbying of the Trump organization by Big Candy. There's the National Confectioners lobby represents Hershey's, Mars, Jelly Belly, as well as a number of these other big candy companies. And they want to get some early policy wins from the Trump administration. And one of the things they want, I had no idea, Pat, what were the demands or desires of Big Candy. They want, this is not surprising, a rollback of government sugar subsidies that candy firms say drive up the costs of making their products. Quote, we have a very narrow window of time now with the current administration and political dynamics to win this fight. This is the president of the group, John Downs Jr. Um, everybody is very, very quick now to try to get regulations removed when it's going to hurt their cause. And they see the Trump administration, at least in their infancy, I guess, as maybe the ideal moment to ask for deregulation because Trump has said, hey, we're going to deregulate business. Did you, I mean, we know about the sugar lobby, but separate from the sugar lobby, did you know, Pat, that there was a confectioner's lobby?
I had no idea they were so influential. And I wonder, maybe the Trump administration is testing the waters with this sort of the candy industry because it seems like it wouldn't get too much press attention. People wouldn't take it very seriously. If they start moving on to having defense contractors and, you know, the pharmaceutical industry hang out at these mansions and enjoy all these benefits, I think people will get upset.
Yeah, when you're trying to figure out if the president might be a Russian puppet, Big Candy isn't necessarily going to draw a lot of media attention. And it's created like a perfect cover under which we're seeing Republicans pass crazy laws the way I've talked about now multiple times on the show, and it's not even being reported on almost because it's Trump, Trump, Trump. We're doing what we can to point out all of these bills that are happening. And you see industry groups say, hey, let's now make the push for deregulation. I'm really not a huge, what I would call candy guy. Like my extent of candy consumption would be sort of like hipster artisanal dark chocolate bars.
Yes.
Like when I go grocery shopping, I'll get some kind of chocolate that has, you know, it's dark chocolate with coconut, dark chocolate with almonds, whatever. But I can't think of the last time I bought like a Snickers or something like that.
Or like a Sour Patch Kids. That's even worse. Got to stick to the dark
Yeah.
chocolate. Got to stick to the fruit. That's a much healthier approach, I think.
Now, as a vegan, are most bars vegan or do many? Because a lot of them use milk chocolate, right?
Right. I mean, there's some exceptions. There are some things that are kind of accidentally vegan, like Oreos, for example. But yeah, even those fruity type candies may contain gelatin. So I avoid those. But yes, most candies don't use dark chocolate. They go with the milk chocolate because I'm sure it's probably a cheaper option.
Hey, but to go back to the Oreo thing, are Oreos vegan because that creamy filling actually has no dairy? Is that what the deal is?
It's a vanilla filling. I mean, I don't think
Huh.
they were out to make the product vegan. It just so happens that out of all the products that are in there, and there are many, none of them contain animal products. No milk, no dairy, no eggs.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, you know what? Plenty of food coloring, but no dairy. It's still vegan. Congratulations to,
Thank you.
I guess, to vegans the world over about their ability to consume Oreos. I would not have guessed that. It's been a while since I had Oreos. The last time I got an Oreo type thing is I think it was like the Newman's Organics sandwich cookie, which looks like an Oreo, but obviously it's not. It's a Newman's cookie, but visually almost indistinguishable.
That sounds like a ripoff to me. I think there should be a
No,
lawsuit over that.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure Oreo would like that, but it's just a cookie with a vanilla creamy filling. You can't, I don't know that you can really copyright that. Maybe with TPP you could, but at least currently it seems like you can't. So I've mentioned before that in Boston, I live in the neighborhood, which is South Boston, known colloquially as Southie. This is not exactly known as the most sort of diverse and open neighborhood, historically an Irish and Italian neighborhood with significant sort of exclusionary and racist, I venture to say, track record. And it's become somewhat gentrified over the last 5 to 8 years. And it's the home of a very, very well known, maybe the most well known St. Patrick's Day parade in the country in South Boston. And it goes by just a few blocks from where I live. And they also have, as a parade, a history of being sort of homophobic. And there have been issues in the past where LGBT groups have been banned from participating. And there's an article in the Boston Globe from a few days ago pointing out that organizers of the parade in South Boston, which is this Sunday, March 19th, have reinstated a ban on a group of gay veterans, which has sparked outrage from some corporate donors and some politicians. And the Allied War Veterans Council of South Boston voted 9-4 to exclude the group known as Outvets from the parade, even though the group was allowed to march the last 2 years. Have you been following the back and forth on this, Pat? Because first they were banned, then they were allowed because of backlash. Now they've reinstated the ban, although the parade marshal, Army veteran Dan Magoon, resigned after voting in favor of the gay veterans group. It is constant drama with this, and it's embarrassing to me that this is still even an issue.
Yeah, I think it's back on. I think they're now allowed to march in the parade as of the most recent source that I've looked at. But you're right. I mean, it just seems like an issue that would be discussed in the 1990s, and we should be so much beyond that. Especially because, I mean, it's a parade. Who really cares? I mean, is this going to affect the moral fabric of our society?
Yeah, I mean, when I went to this parade for about 15 minutes last year, that was all I could bear. And it seemed to me that if there were going to be any qualms about the state of the moral fabric of our country, it was the insanely drunk people urinating all over public streets and businesses during the parade. That to me would be much more of a concern than a gay veterans group marching. And fortunately, the mayor of Boston, Martin Walsh, agrees. Republican Governor Charlie Baker, as well as Democratic Senator Edward Markey, two congressmen, many other politicians said they would boycott the parade unless the course on this was reversed. And you've heard, Pat, most recently that they are now going to be allowed?
According to the Washington Post, as of about 2 days ago, I think they're going to be allowed at this point. I mean, it's one of those things where
Yeah.
you're fighting against, I mean, the trend of history. So we live in Massachusetts, and yes, this parade is taking place in Southie specifically, but I'm sure it's being operated through the entire city, and there's no way that something like that would stand. Maybe in the South somewhere, but I can't imagine it going forward here.
Have you been to the South Boston St. Patrick's Day Parade in the past? Will you be going this year? And do you ever feel either particularly proud of or shamed by the actions that take place under the banner of Irish heritage in this parade, given your background?
I've never been to the parade. I don't care for parades. I think they're pretty dumb. You
Yeah.
show up there, you have to wait hours and hours before they start the procession, and then it's over in 15 minutes. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out because I like the antics that go around behind the scenes.
Yeah, I unfortunately figured out too recently that it's not that easy to get around the neighborhood on this particular day. And I was hoping last year to actually be out of the city this year during the parade, but I am going to be in town. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go over and see what's going on for like 30 seconds. But last time it was just unbearable. People urinating everywhere, like I mentioned. Beer was spilling everywhere, including on me. And for the most part, unless you get there super early, you can't even see anything because the road, the lining of the main street there goes 10 deep. So unless you get there, I don't even know what time you'd have to get there. You don't even see anything. Seems kind of pointless to me.
Well, I guess if you can't beat them, join them. You can take part in the public urination, the public intoxication. I mean, who's going to stop you if everyone else is doing it?
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. I'll think about that and let you know if I decide to partake in the public urination. That's it for today. Keep the coffee orders coming. A lot of now third time. We've only been offering the coffee 6 weeks or so, and there are people who have already ordered 3 times, and that is some serious caffeination that's going on. DavidPakman.com/gear. We got a great show planned for you tomorrow, and I'll speak to you then.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.